the Minister, Graeme Day, to wind up the debate. Minister.
Presiding Officer, let me begin by commending Alasdair Allan for securing this debate. I very much welcome the opportunity to respond to the point he raises and some wider ones, and I very much appreciate your indulgence, Presiding Officer, in affording me a little bit more time to do that. This motion, in essence, highlights the importance of ensuring the views and experiences of islanders inform delivery of ferry service. That's been at the core of my thinking since taking on the transport portfolio a few short months ago. On the specific matter of islands-based board membership, let me be clear, I would very much favour an islands-based presence on the boards of Caledonian Maritime Assets Limited and David McBrain Limited. Although clearly any member of the board needs to bring requisite skills needed to guide the business, and they of course have to meet their fiduciary duties in relation to the interest of the company itself, I recognise entirely the desire of many to ensure there are members of the board who can bring direct and current experience of island living to the table. The Chamber will be aware that Calmac Ferries Limited is a subsidiary company of DML, and the board is appointed by DML rather than ministers. But in the most recent board recruitment for David McBrain Limited, it was made clear that people applying must have a strong focus on serving our island and remote communities and experience or knowledge of the issues affecting those communities. They should have an understanding or knowledge of tourism and economic and social regeneration, all issues, of course, affecting our rural and island communities. The most recent recruitment for David McBrain Limited is ongoing, so there is a limit to what I can say about it. What I can say is that these positions were advertised widely, including on the vessels travelling to our island communities, and a high number of applications were received. If, after that process concludes, further progress is required, I'd be happy to explore how we might achieve this. I give Dr Allan and others that assurance, because it is neither tenable nor credible that there would continue to be no representation from anyone living on our islands in these environments. There are, of course, Presiding Officer, other additional means by which we can ensure that the voice of island communities are heard. The boards of DML and CMAL, though important, are just one part of the delivery of our ferry services. Both DML and Circle Northlink ferries, who operate the Northern Isles service, are major employers in our island communities, and both draw over a third of their employees from the island and remote rural communities they serve. And specific to Alasdair Allan's constituency, the contact centre team in Stornoway, for example, has now grown to 6, including one who's just been promoted to the contact centre team leader. And in addition, CFL have recently recruited 2 new senior managers to positions within their operations team, both of whom are based in the Western Isles. Progress, although perhaps more that can be done when it comes to recruitment for some other non-geographically specific posts. And I look forward to the new CalMac Agile Flexible Working Policy, which comes into force later this month, perhaps facilitating this. The issues on ferry service networks since taking up this post have been very much a priority for me. With social distancing restricting seat numbers on our ferries until a few weeks ago, that engagement to begin with was largely virtual and strategic in nature. Over the past 6 weeks or so, however, I've had the opportunity to visit a number of island communities to see firsthand some of our ferry services and ports, and to meet islanders and hear directly from them on the issues they are facing. And along with the Cabinet Secretary for Rural Affairs and Islands, I'll be attending the upcoming Island Strategic Group to discuss transport matters with the leaders of all 6 island local authorities, although I've already met in person with those of Argyll and Bute, the Western Isles and Orkney. I want to reassure the Chamber that we are very much listening to communities and, importantly, hearing them and their views and ideas for improving the current services. Based on feedback and requests from communities, CFL have recently removed motorhomes from standby queues across the network. It's a fairly small action, but it's one that could be put in place immediately and dealt with a level of unfairness and disproportion in the use of this element of available space. There were some initial reactions around what this meant for islanders with camper vans, and a solution was quickly found to this. We're also, picking up on Jenny Minto's point, we are also working up a plan to reduce fares for school buses used for extracurricular activities, which was another community ask. Officials have been engaging with CFL and the Ferries Community Board to finalise details of the scheme, including exact fares, eligibility, costs and timescales. But this is very much just start of the process of better meeting the reasonable asks and ideas coming from our island communities. I'm particularly keen that we build upon the work of the Ferries Community Board, and therefore I've asked them to take on an enhanced role, contributing to the early stages of some key pieces of policy work that are strategic or network-wide in nature, where they can help inform that policy development and highlight any key issues or unintended consequences based on their expertise as ferry users and representatives of their communities. We look forward to working with the Community Board on other ticketing and fares initiatives over the coming weeks. And I want to place on record my appreciation of the enthusiastic commitment to this approach we've had from Angus Campbell and his colleagues. I should add, however, that this is not in any way designed to supplant the excellent work done by ferry committees or transport forums, who will still have a key role in community-specific issues such as vessel replacement. And I hope my own engagement with the Harris Transport Forum and the Mull Ferry Committee demonstrates my commitment to this. And I look forward to meeting in person with the Arran Committee later this month. I should also highlight, Presiding Officer, that we're improving and standardising our approach to engaging with communities in the development of new vessel projects, such as the new Iowa vessel, where this approach has been welcomed. And of course, last but by no means least, engagement with relevant local authorities is also a vital part of all of this. Indeed, I'll be following up later this month on initial helpful dialogue with North Ayrshire Council around the issue of Arran and Ardrossan, and I look forward to progressing that. Presiding Officer, turning to the points that members have made, or at least some of them, Alasdair Allan was right to say that I am acutely aware of the human and economic impact felt on our islands by the difficulties heightened by the need for social distancing, but not entirely due to that. It wasn't acceptable. Improvement needs to happen. And we need to increase the resilience of the fleet over the short, medium and long term. Kenny Gibson interestingly noted the impact that lifting the restrictions has had, the difficulties that has caused, and he's right to do so. We've had COVID outbreaks affecting a number of our ferry services, particularly in Arran, and I would make a plea to ferry users to exercise all due care in utilising the vessels. Kenny Gibson also, like Alasdair Allan, highlighted the need for clearer messaging when communicating bad news around cancellations, including providing particular detail, specific detail, as well as noting the plan to mitigate. And I think that's something, to be fair to Calmac, we're seeing some progress on. In terms of second-hand and new tonnage, providing relief to the problems of this year, we have, of course, added the time-chartered MV Arrow on a temporary basis and are very actively progressing efforts to add more permanently in the immediate term. As far as the progression of new vessels is concerned, I would also hope to have some news on progress quite shortly in the form of the Iowa vessel. And that kicks off the building programme already announced as part of a £580 million investment in the fleet and accompanying infrastructure. Rhoda Grant questioned the future structures behind ferry service, and I understand that entirely. But as Katie Clark noted, there is a review of just that currently underway. Neither of them, I suspect, would expect me to prejudge the outcome of that, but let me be clear. What matters here is finding the most effective and efficient way to manage and deliver services. That is what we owe our island communities.
Graeme Simpson.
Thank you very much, and thank the Minister for taking the intervention. Just on the question of the review, which I think is very, very important indeed, can he say when that will be concluded, and is he prepared to make a statement to Parliament once it has been?
Minister.
The exact time scale is not in our hands, but I'm certainly happy to consider that option. I'll talk to members across the chamber about that if they felt that that was appropriate. Katie Clark also noted the situation at Ardrossan, and I can advise that progress does at last seem to be being made, thanks in no small part to the support of the local council. I'm relieved that's the case, not least of all because we need to make progress, but it also gets me some peace and quiet from Kenny Gibson as the local MSP. And I want to assure her further that I'm very much looking at the model of port infrastructure ownership and operation going forward. We might not entirely agree about what the best model would look like, but certainly the one we have currently is not appropriate to the needs that we have.
An intervention. In December 2017, the Scottish Government, in the Ferry Services interim report, said that it would build a case for making a direct award to an in-house operator. Is that still the approach that the Government is taking?
Minister.
Presiding Officer, it would be fair to say that that is not top of my agenda in terms of an issue at the moment. I have much to be getting on with in the ferry space. The ferries contract is not due up for some time. It is something we'll come to, but it's not high up my agenda, as I'm sure the member will appreciate. Presiding Officer, I want to thank, in conclusion, I want to thank Alasdair Allan again for bringing this motion and for the way it has provided an opportunity for the Parliament to discuss this important issue of community involvement in the ferry service and where we can further develop that. But if you'll indulge me just a little bit more, Presiding Officer, pushing my luck here, I know, I want to take this opportunity to express my personal thanks to our ferry crews and the backroom staff for the tremendous job they have done throughout this pandemic. I had the chance to do that personally on the Handlevoor at Stromness and when I was travelling on the Cruisk and the Loch Seaforth. I also did it when I was meeting frontline ticket office staff in Kirkwall, in Mull, in Oban, Stornoway and Ullapool. But let me reiterate this more widely. Those who have delivered their ferry services throughout these difficult past 18 months deserve our grateful thanks. Presiding Officer.
Thank you, Minister.